Weather Channel is saying I got some rain coming in here in about 3 hours or so. It's supposed to start raining in about 2 or 3 hours. This morning I ordered some more distiller grains, and as I was walking around this morning, I was taking a look at my field, and my grass is starting to come up. I would say that the grass is about 1 inch tall, and so the grass is coming up. I got my distiller grains ordered, everything, I got it lined up, and up here very soon I'm gonna have to start increasing my stocking densities because I'm gonna have a lot of grass. I also want to run an experiment on this grass that I'm growing. I'm gonna do it very diligently. You know, I was talking about this, and I'm wanting to run an experiment to see if I can reduce. Well, I'm working on my onboarding program. I'm looking to really focus on my onboarding program. I really want to see if I can, I'm using death loss as a metric, and I want to see if I can reduce my death loss on my new calves. And I wanted to talk about, several things today. I guess I'll start with, and I also want to talk about the business side of things. Okay, so I guess I'll start off by talking about the business side of things. And let's say that you're in a situation where you actually want to start a business, right? And so if you want to start a business, what are some things that I did that made a very that helped me a lot when I started a business? And number one was I went on Google and I typed in how do I start a business in Texas? And depending on what state you live in, it's going to be different. And so in Texas, you have to file a thing. I don't know what they call it, but you have to file a registration with the Secretary of State. I believe it's called the Secretary of State. And if you go on, like when I go on the internet and I type in how do I start an LLC in Texas, it will give you an instructional thing. It will tell you you have to file it with the Secretary of State, and then etc. etc. And so what I did was I called the Secretary of State, and then they sent me an instructional thing to my email. I paid a couple $100, and my LLC was filed. And when my LLC was filed, they gave me a couple of different forms, and I believe one had like my identification number on it or something. It was some kind of like an identification number. I don't know if it was an EIN or a TI. I don't remember, but they gave me a couple of forms, and I took those forms and I took them to the bank, and then I opened a business account. And then when I opened a business account, all of the money that I make in my cattle business, I put it in my business account. And I also keep all of the receipts. So I keep all of my receipts for anything that I purchase for my business. Anything that I purchase for my business, and anything that, any money that I made on my business, I put it in that account. And then at the end of the year, I just take my receipts, and I take my business account, and then I also take my W-2, and I take that to the accountant, and then the accountant will file my taxes for me. So that's how I do it. And then when the accountant files your taxes for you, they will give you like a 20-page document, 21-page document, and it will have all your tax information on it. And then you can take that document to the bank. And if you take that document to the bank, they will take a look at it, and then you can talk about whatever deal it is that you want to do. I want to purchase a piece of land. I want to buy a business. I want to take a business line of credit. If you just take them that booklet, it's almost like a booklet. When your accountant, like my tax forms are like 21 pages long or something. And so you just take that to the bank, and the bank will take a look at it. They will type it into their computer or whatever, and then they will then you can discuss your deal with the banker, depending on whatever it is that you want to buy. All right, and I've already said, in terms of a market, in terms of like if you're really looking to make money, I would highly suggest, and I'm not even going to say I highly suggest, I'm going to say this is how I did it. When I did it, I found the largest market that I could find. I found the most equitable market that I could find. I found the most liquid market that I could find. The biggest one that I could find. The cattle business. The cattle business, in terms of cattle, people are buying and selling cattle every minute of every single day. All across the entire planet. Every single minute of every single day, you can effectively sell and buy cattle like 358 days a year. Very, very, very large market. Very, very, very liquid market. There is a lot of money in it. I legitimately, and I think that this is going to be something that blows your mind. And I talk about my perspective because when you get to see, you know, this is probably going to be the only time that you ever get to see this. You probably do not have a reference point. Most people, you don't understand. Well, I'm not going to say you don't understand. I'm going to tell you what you don't. You know, I'm going to tell you about this whole thing. To find somebody like me, if you were in a room full of 333.4 million people, there would only be 15,000 people like me in that entire room. All right, and chances are, you know, after you meet about 100 people, you're not going to go around and meet another million people. Chances are you're not going to do it. But realistically, if you wanted to find somebody like me, you would have to meet, I don't even know, it's gonna be a large amount of people. And it's like, if you wanted to meet somebody like me, you would be in a room of 333.4 million people, and there would be 15,000 people like me in that room. The chances of you finding anybody like me are almost 0%. Borderline 0%. And so I'm going to talk about my perspective, because at the end of the day, it's like, when I run cattle, I effectively make so much money that I can do anything that I want. Anything. I make such a drastic amount of money running commercial cattle that I can effectively do anything. And if you want to take a look at it in terms of a perspective, honest to God perspective, I'm going to buy a 50-acre piece of land. I'm going to purchase like 200 cattle, 150 cattle, and I will do all of that in less than 6 months. And it won't even take all of my money. It will take like 1/3 to 1/2 of my money. And in reality, it's not going to cost me anything, because I talked about this in terms of perspective, but I have an investment funnel. I have an investment funnel for a reason. When I put money into cattle, and when I put money into cattle feed, and when I put money into land, the reason that I do that is because when I put money into these things and I knowledgeably appreciate my assets, I knowledgeably maintain my assets, I actually make a substantial positive return. I talk about this all the time, right? And I use this as an example. What does this cost me? Like, you see all of this in front of me, right? What does this cost me? It costs me nothing. If I stopped running my business, I would lose a drastic amount of money. You have to understand this as a fundamental idea. It is a fundamental idea. What does this cost me? It costs me nothing. It makes me money. If I stopped doing this, I would lose a drastic amount of money very quickly. That's another way to look at it. And I was talking about my feed yesterday, and I ordered feed this morning. And I've always said use different reference points, right? And I've said, in terms of the distiller grains, I feed about, the business plan, in terms of my business plan, it is to take an animal from 200 pounds to 650 pounds, right? That's effectively the business plan right now. My benchmark animal is a 200-pound animal, number 1 to 1.5 type, medium large frame. I purchased that animal from a formula that I created, that I linked to the feeder cattle market, which is essentially the stock market. Right, the feeder cattle market is effectively the price for cattle, a number 1 type steer, 800-pound commodity type animal. Do I have straight commodity type number 1 animals in Texas? No, I do not. Right, so I created a formula to essentially, calculate that portion of the equation. I do not have long strings of number 1 type commodity animals in Texas. You don't really ever see that unless you really, really, really go out of your way to look for them. All right, and so, if I'm raising my animals from 200 pounds to 600 pounds, then the average weight across the animals over the long term is a 400-pound animal, because that's what's in between 200 and 600 pounds. So I use, and so if they're 400 pounds, if they're less than 400 pounds, then they will eat less, and if they're over 400 pounds, then they will eat more effectively, right? And I use 3.25% of their body weight in dry matter a day as their daily intake of food. And so, and if you want to think about it like that, well, in terms of like, what do I actually feed my animals? I feed these animals about 100 to about 120 pounds of distiller grains a day. When I have about 35 animals, I feed about 100 to 120 pounds of distiller grains a day. And you know, and I've already talked about this in terms of the broader picture, but in reality, you know, I'm feeding these animals about 1/3 of their diet a day. I feed them about 1/3, 33% of their diet a day in distiller grains. I add corn to it, and then I give them free choice forage, right? I give them free choice hay. And so if you take a look at what I'm doing, and I've already said that in distiller grains, in reality, you really do not want to be getting your animals close to that 50% of their diet. You really do not want to be getting anywhere near 1.6 to 1.7% of their diet a day in dry matter in distiller grains. You don't want to do that, because if you do that, they're going to have sulfur problems. All right, sulfur is a major issue in distiller grains, from what I understand. It's a very and sulfur will actually drop the pH of their rumen. And so if your animals are having diarrhea from eating too much distiller grains, that's very bad. They're having acidosis. And the smaller that your animal is, the more severe that the acidosis becomes. If you have a small animal that is having acidosis, it is significantly worse than having a larger animal that is also having acidosis. Severely worse. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like if you have them on grass, and if you have a little 200-pound calf and it's having acidosis from eating grass, that's still not good. That's still very bad. You do not want to give a 200-pound animal acidosis. All right, you have to understand these fundamentals, and I'm going to use a different reference point, because I've already talked about this in terms of a broader idea. Like, if I found somebody, in terms of my results, if you actually take a look at what I'm doing and you actually ask somebody who knows what they're doing, like a legitimate, you know, a group of PhDs, and you talk to them about my cattle business, they're going to understand that I do very well. If you talk to anybody and they're saying, you know, I go to the sale barn and I pick calves one by one. I do not buy long strings of calves. I buy animals one at a time from the sale barn. And I bring them home at 200 pounds. And my death loss is 15 to 20%. You're doing very well. You are legitimately doing borderline like group of PhD level individuals working together. That's how well you're doing. A lot of people, you probably don't understand this, but you know, it's like 15 to 20% death loss is like if you're going to the sale barn buying calves one at a time by yourself as an individual, and you are running the calves yourself, that is actually a very good number. 15-20%, that's actually very good. You know, most people, you probably don't have any way to reference this information, right? But if you go and you look up scientific papers, you're going to find a lot of papers where they're like, they lost 40%, they lost 60%, they lost 30%. There was a group of PhDs working for the government doing this, running high-risk stocker calves, and they lost 20%. And then if you actually reference your information, then you will actually find that, you know, if you're legitimately in a situation where you yourself as a farmer are going to the sale barn and buying calves one at a time by yourself, they're 200 pounds, and you're bringing them home and you're raising them, and you have a 15 to 20% death loss, then that is very good. That is very good. All right, like you know, and so, you know, and this is just, you know, a he said, she said kind of story, but I actually, you know, I know a veterinarian. I know a veterinarian who runs a cattle feeding operation behind his practice, and he actually told me that he lost 10% of his animals in a day, and he has over 200 animals. He lost 10% in a day. All right, like you probably don't understand, you know, you don't understand the cattle business. You probably don't. But if I was talking to somebody, like if I, you know, because me, you know, to a large degree, I actually know what I'm doing. If I talked to somebody who was telling me about their cattle business, and they were like, yeah, you know, I use this formula to purchase these cattle, I purchase these type of cattle, and I go to the sale barn and I buy them one at a time, and you know, and when I bring them home, you know, I lose about 15 to 20% of them. Then, you know, it's like me, I would understand that this individual is actually doing very well. All right, like to me, it wouldn't be like, oh my God, you know, I can't believe it. You know, it wouldn't be like that to me. To me, I would understand, like, this person is actually doing well. right? I mean, this person is actually doing well. And me, I'm looking to reduce my death loss percentages. I actually had a calf and this was a very good example. God knows it. My veterinarian knows it. My mama knows it. I know it. But I purchased the calf. I didn't know that the calf was sick, but I was taking a look at the calf very closely on the first day that I brought her in, and I thought something was wrong with her. And she had over a 104-degree fever. She would have probably died if she did not get the proper care and medication. Like, you have to understand that when you go to the sale barn, you are not buying, 100% healthy calves. You have to understand how to utilize animal medication. All right, you have to learn how to, properly maintain their diets, etc., etc. And you probably, the average person, and, I've always talked about the average person, right? I call it the Costco people, the Walmart people, the Family Dollar people. It doesn't really matter. You're all effectively the same. Every single last one of you are effectively the same. 93% of the entire USA is effectively the same. All right, if I were to have an honest to God conversation with 93% of America, they would not have much of anything good to say, if anything at all. You have to understand this, all right? I mean, desperation, bought things that they can barely afford, leverage to the eyeballs, right? I mean, something is going horribly wrong. I mean, whatever, massively in credit card debt for consumer goods. I mean, almost everybody, something is going horribly wrong. Almost everybody. And I can guarantee it. You go into go into a Costco and take a look around, go into a Walmart, take a look around, and you go into a Family Dollar, take a look around. Everybody is effectively the same, more or less the exact same. All right, you're not gonna, and you're not hardly ever gonna meet, and I'm not like, oh my God, look at me, look at me, I'm a saint and whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, in terms of a reality situation, if you were to find somebody like me, you would need to be in a room full of 333.4 million people. And out of those 333.4 million people, you will need to be looking for 15,000 individuals. And you will probably not find anybody like this ever again. But, YouTube is kind of interesting, right? Because on YouTube, you can go and watch whoever you want. And there are legitimate rich people on YouTube that are just kind of decent people, right? I mean, they're not horrible people. They're not, a saint, but they're not a horrible person. I mean, it's not like I manufacture drugs, right? I've talked about this, in terms of me. I'm not saying like, look at me, I'm a saint. But it's like me, I made this drastic amount of money. I do very well for myself, and I didn't go and buy myself a Lamborghini, right? I didn't go and buy myself a Rolex, right? I didn't go, oh my God, now I'm gonna YOLO everything. I didn't do that. At the end of the day, I didn't do that. I took my money, I took about a third of it, a half of it, and I'm looking to increase my business by about 500%, 400%. That is legitimately what I'm doing. God knows it. Right? At the end of the day, I know it, my mama knows it, and God knows it too. That's what matters, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that is legitimately what I did with the money that I made. And so if you take a look at what I'm doing, and it's like, if you want to use if you want to cross-reference everything, I feed about I would anticipate that these animals eat about 3.25% of their body weight a day in dry matter. About 1/3 of their diet, about 33% of their diet is a distiller grains. If I use 400 pounds as the average weight for the animals across the entirety of their stay at my farm, if I use 400 pounds, and at 400 pounds, they're going to be eating roughly 12 to 15 pounds of feed a day. And if I raise 40 animals and they're, effective, or if I raise 35 animals or whatever, I actually haven't even ran these numbers. And so I'm going to run them on camera. And so that that I'm not just, making these numbers up. I'll actually run them on camera and we can run these numbers together. But if I have a 400-pound animal and they're eating 3.25% of their body weight a day in dry matter, they're effectively eating about 12 to 15 pounds of food a day, right? Is that correct? I'm very not good at math. I don't know what happened with me, but I don't do numbers. And so whenever I do numbers, I got to really, really, really check. If I have a 400, so 4 times 3, that's 12. So effectively, they're eating about 12 to 15 pounds of feed. Okay, so that is correct. They're eating about 12 to 15 pounds of feed a day. I have 35 animals, and if I feed 1/3 of their feed a day in distiller grains, what does that cost? Or how much? No, not what does that cost. How much distiller grains is that? 1/3 of whatever. 12, right? I mean, so that's you know, that's about 4 pounds. They're getting about 4 pounds a day each, right? And I was, you know, and I was saying I feed about 100 to about 120 pounds a day, right? And so boom, there you go, there's a cross-reference number. I was saying that I feed about 100 to about 120 pounds a day. I haven't ran these numbers. I'm running them on camera right now. And so, you know, boom, there you go, there's a cross-reference number. You know, I feed about, you know, and so I feed about, you know, about 100 to about 120 pounds of distiller grains a day for about 35 animals. You know, and distiller grains cost me about 50%. Distiller grains cost me about $300 a ton delivered. I pay about $300 a ton delivered. I pay about $200 a ton for corn delivered, and I pay about $200 a ton for hay delivered. And you know, you can run the numbers however which way you want. You know, actually I paid about 180 or so a ton for hay delivered, but it's the same thing, 180, 200, same difference. And so if we take a look at the things for what they are, and then we calculate how much money is involved, right? I talk about this all the time. You have to learn how to calculate how much money is involved. When you're looking at something, especially when you're in business, you have to understand that there is a monetary value associated with the things that you are doing. There is a monetary value. If you're going to purchase corn, chances are you're going to have to pay money for it. How much money are you going to have to pay? Go on the stock market and look up the price of corn. How much, you know, if you want distiller grains, you're going to have to pay for it. How much are you going to have to pay? Call your broker and ask him what it costs. Or you can use my number. My number is a legitimate number. I am giving you the numbers that I actually get, and I actually do this on a day-to-day basis. I legitimately do this, okay? I'm not pulling these numbers out of nowhere. I actually do this on a regular, I do this every single day. All right, and these are my numbers. I pay about $300 a ton for distiller grains delivered. I pay about $200 a ton for corn delivered. I paid about $180, $200 a ton for hay delivered. That's what I paid. All right, and this is how much my animals eat. And when they eat this much amount of food, they put on about this much weight. These are the type of animals that I raise. This is how much I budget. This is how I budget for the animals in terms of what am I, you know, what kind of animal am I going to buy, etc., etc. These are the type of animals that I buy. This is how I run my business, etc. I'm giving you everything that I do for free. You know, because I'm giving the knowledge away to everybody at the exact same time for free. I'm giving you the knowledge for free. All right, you know, I've already said that, you know, me, I'm not going to be I'm not your parent. Right? I've already said, you know, in terms of a reality, you know, who do I see as an optimal candidate for somebody that can learn from somebody like this? It's like if you're 25, if you're 23 and you've already actually learned properly, like you've actually have a strong basis. Like if you're born on a dairy farm and you legitimately run, you know, 2,000 cattle a year by yourself, you legitimately maintain and you raise 2,000 cattle by yourself. You know, you grow your own grass, you fundamentally understand how to grow grass, you understand the different feed values, you understand the concept of feed values. Like if you've actually learned correctly, then, you know, there may be some things that you can pick up from me, that you can benefit from me. Because me, when I watch, when I watch dairy people run their operations, I'm like, this is actually very neat, right? They got a lot of computers, a lot of technology. I mean, they're very, very, very high tech. The dairy industry is very high tech, and I think that is very interesting. You know, but you know, and I've, you know, and so, you know, there are a certain, you know, but am I going to turn a regular person? Am I going to turn a regular person into the world's greatest cattleman? No, I am not. It is not possible. Like, you know, you probably fundamentally do not understand this, but when you are watching my farm, when you are watching me farm, you may legitimately be watching the most successful farmer on the entire planet. You probably do not understand that. You don't have any reference point to understand that. Like, you legitimately don't have any reference point. You've never even seen anybody that could do this well, not even close. You don't have anyone to even reference my, you know, you don't even have a reference point. You probably don't. Most people don't. The average person has never even seen a farm before in their entire life. So most people probably do not understand that when you are watching me farm, you are legitimately watching the best farmer, maybe the best farmer on the entire planet when it comes to running cattle on grass. I may legitimately be the best. And you don't have any reference point for that. You don't understand that. And I'm telling you, you're not going to turn an average person into the world's greatest farmer. It's not going to happen. I don't, you know, and if you want to prove me wrong, then prove me wrong. I will gladly shake your hand. All right, but maybe, and I've always said that maybe if I say this, then you will actually start putting in the amount of effort that is required to get to even the 10% mark. Most people never even get to the 10% mark. Almost no. I have actually not seen anybody with my own two eyes that has gotten to the 10% mark. I've actually seen people on YouTube that have gotten to the 10% mark, right? I've seen people who do better than the 10% mark. Right, and you know, and I always put emphasis on the dairy industry. The dairy industry is very interesting. It's very high tech. You got a lot of super young guys that have just been, you know, on the dairy farm their entire life. They've been around all of this technology for a very long period of time. They've been running 2,000 cattle by themselves, and you know, with just them and their dad and their brother have been running 2,000 cattle since the beginning of their existence. They've seen all of this technology. They understand, you know, like you know, if you want to raise a dairy animal properly and you want that animal to produce milk properly, you have to take care of that animal very thoroughly. They understand these things, right? But maybe it's like, you know, but I don't know what it is about the dairy industry, but you know, well, I know what it is about the dairy industry, but I wouldn't touch the dairy industry with a 5,000-foot pole. I mean, it's you know, it's like you have to do all of this A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. You have to get a mama cow, impregnate that mama cow, and then you have to pull the calf away from the mama. And when you pull the calf away from the mama, now you can harvest the milk. And when you harvest the milk, you have to feed the animal a very particular diet, or the animal's not going to produce the right type of milk. And then, you know, it's like you finally get a gallon of milk, and then you get like what, like 50 cents for the gallon. I mean, I wouldn't touch the dairy industry with a 5,000-foot pole. All right, and so, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, every dairyman on the planet should give up the business, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't touch the dairy business with a 5,000-foot pole. You know, and you know, but I do very well for myself in terms of the beef industry. I do very well for myself. I may legitimately be one of the most successful beef cattlemen on the entire planet. I mean, I effectively made so much money on a 10.5-acre field that I can buy myself a 50-acre field and 150 cattle, and it wouldn't even take maybe about half of my money, legitimately. All right, and so, you know, it's like I made so much money on a 10.5-acre field running commercial beef cattle that I can effectively do anything that I want. And if you take a look at my results in terms of the global U.S. economy, I effectively did so well that there are only 15,000 people in the entire country that did as well as me in 2024 out of 333.4 million people, legitimately. Those are the numbers. It doesn't matter what you think. Those are objectively the numbers. And chances are, you know, it's like you have no reference point. This may be the only chance that you ever get to see this, and this may be the only time that you ever see it in your entire life. And you probably do not understand that. Fundamentally, you have not thought about that. Chances are you haven't. And you know, but me, in terms of me, I legitimately know people. I actually know people that will write a $1 million check every week of the year if you give them a good reason to do it. They will do it. If you bring them the right type of cattle, if you raise your cattle the right way, and you bring them the right type of cattle, and you bring them the, you know, etc., etc., they will legitimately give you a $1 million check every week of the year. And I know multiple of these people. And that is, you know, and that is going to be something that kind of probably blows your mind. In terms of the average person, it's like, oh my God, like I legitimately know people. I know multiple people that will write $4 million worth of checks every single month. I know multiple people. And this is also what I'm talking about when I say, you know, when you're looking to start a business, you should be looking for the largest market that you can find. Find the market with the most amount of money in it, the most liquid market, the largest capital market that you can find. People are trading it all the time. And then see how you can be of use to that market. And that's how I did it. And you know, and it's like you have to understand, like me, even, and I'll use me as an example. I did not just say, you know what, I fell out of heaven a 7. I'm gonna do whatever the heck I want, and then when I do it, I expect to be rewarded because my life is a la land journey. I did not do that. I went to the sale barn. I took a look around. I was buying and selling cattle. I talk about this all the time. I was buying and selling cattle. I was selling different types of cattle. I was buying different types of cattle. I realized that for certain types of cattle, you would pay more, and certain types of cattle, you would pay less, etc., etc. I taught myself about it. I went on the internet and I looked up presentations on how to identify beef animals, etc., etc. And then one time I was sitting at the sale barn and I legitimately found a guy who was buying like 25% of all of the cattle in the entire sale barn by himself, and he actually did it week after week. I legitimately saw a guy do that. And then I looked at different auctions, and I've actually found people who will legitimately pay $1 million a week. Every week of the year, if you give them the right reason to do it, they will gladly give you the money. They don't care about the $1 million. I'm telling you, I know people like this. All right, and it's like you have to understand that money, it's like, it's like if you get beyond the barrier, the ink barrier of money, you will find that there is so much money that it is effectively mind-numbing. There is so much money. There is money everywhere. Like, and when you get beyond that ink barrier, you will find that it is like mind-numbing how much money there is. Like it's almost mind-boggling. And you don't have to sell your soul to make this money. And at the end of the day, money is money. If you're poor, then you're poor. I don't know how else to put that. And I've always said that being poor is like being on drugs. If you have a drug addict, then they're a drug addict, right? I mean, you can tell that they're a drug addict. I mean, and I've actually wanted to bring up this point too. I've always said, whether you're successful or not, it's obvious. If you're a failure, it's obvious. If you're successful, it's obvious. And so me, as I go forward with the things that I am planning and doing, I am doing as of right now, when I go forward with these things, either I will succeed or I will fail. And you get to watch me do it either way, right? If you're sitting around, whatever, right, with a thumb up your rear end, and you're just hoping at every moment that I fail, then continue to watch me. But I'm just going to say, I would not bet on me failing. You'll lose all your money. You'll lose your sanity. You'll lose everything you have. You'll come off as an idiot. I would not bet on me failing. I would not bet on it. All right? And it's like, if you want to, but whether I succeed or whether I fail, I will show you. And then I've always said, if you're a failure, then it's obvious. If you're successful, it's obvious. It is obvious. You cannot hide in the tall grass. I talk about this. So continue to watch. And whether I succeed or not, you will get to watch me. All right? And at the end, I'm telling you, when I run cattle, I effectively make so much money that I can do anything that I want. Anything. And, and it's like, and when I talk about money, it's like me, I'm not even close to being the richest man on the entire planet. But I effectively, even at this point in my life, I effectively make so much money that I can do anything that I want. You don't need $10 million to be rich. In all honesty, what you need is an understanding of how to generate money. If you understand fundamentally how to generate money, you're going to hear, you've heard me probably say this even 5 times in this video. You need to be knowledgeable about what you're doing. If you can knowledgeably appreciate your assets, you effectively become a money printing machine. You can print as much money as you want. That's how it works out. If you fundamentally understand this idea, and I am looking to present this idea with the absolute sincerity of my heart. I'm not leading you astray. I'm not leading you the wrong way. All right, I'm not like misinforming you on purpose for malicious intent. I am legitimately giving you the best information that I can with the utmost sincerity of my existence. If you knowledgeably understand how to appreciate an asset, you effectively become a money printing machine. A money printing machine, you will be, your mind will be boggled. You will essentially be like, you'll go, oh my God, like there is so much money everywhere. Effectively everywhere. If I want to buy a piece of land for $500,000, I can buy that land for $500,000 and it will only cost like $3,000 a month. There are legitimately people that will lend you $500,000 for $3,000 a month. There is so much money everywhere, right? I put $1,000 into this thing. I taught myself how to be, you know, useful. I'm a skillful individual. You know, I utilize this skill set and I make like a 500% return on my money. And that's just the money. And I also have equitable assets like my business and my land and my tractor, etc., etc. Right? I mean, and it's like, you know, it's almost mind-numbing how much money you can generate once you actually understand how to generate money. And I was going to talk about this in terms of the business perspective, but I was talking about this at the very beginning of the video. But if you go and you file yourself an LLC, they will, you know, the state, you know, look up, you know, how to file an LLC in your _ state. Whatever your state is, look up how to file an LLC for your state. When you file for an LLC, they will give you documentation. You take that documentation to the bank and they will open a business account for you. And when you have a business account, you know, any time you make money on your business, you put it in your business account. And anytime you buy something for your business, you buy for it via your business account. And then at the end of the year, you just take all of that information. You keep your receipts, and then you take all of that information to your CPA. To your accountant, whoever it may be, to your accountant. You take it to your accountant, and then they will file your taxes for you, and they will essentially give you like a 20-page booklet, like a 21-page document. You take those documents to the bank, and then you ask for whatever deal you want. And when you are doing this, you are leveraging your money. The amount of money that you make every month is what you are leveraging. And if you leverage the money that you make at the end of every month, you are effectively not at risk for anything. You are not at risk for anything. You're not cross-collateralizing anything. You're not at risk for anything. You are not at risk for anything. I'm telling you that, you know, and it's like, well, okay, you're at risk for like $1,000. If you want to take a loan for $250,000, you're at risk for like $2,000. And in reality, it's like, you know, half of your monthly payment is equity, it's principal. You know, even if it's amortized at 7% interest, you know, like 1/3 to a half of your monthly payment is equity, is principal. That is effectively money that is going back to you. All right, and it's like, and I was talking about my situation yesterday, but it's like for me to bankrupt, which I don't, you know, for me to bankrupt, I would have to effectively lose like 350 cattle on top of losing my land. You see how ridiculous that sounds? And this is why I'm telling you, you might as well just go for it. Okay, you might as well just go for it. If you risk $1,000, I put $1,000 into my business and I generated $2 million on $1,000 a month, and I generated $2 million in less than a year. All right, that is legitimate. Those are legitimately my numbers. I don't know how else to put this for you. I'm not like consulting anybody. I don't care. You know, if you die tomorrow, it would not matter to me I would not lose a blink of sleep. All right, you have to understand that these are legitimately my numbers. I invested $1,000 a month and generated $2 million. And I'm not the only person that can do this. If you can do, anyone can do this. Granted that you are born with 100 IQ, but most of the time, the biggest issue is that you have already been led astray. All right, you're already going the wrong way. You've been going the wrong way for a very long time. You don't even know what you're looking at. When you're looking right at it, you have no idea what's even going on. And if anything, you're actually going the wrong way. All right, like if you actually, and you know, like me, okay, think about this, right? Like think about if I used me as an example. Let's say like me, you know, I found this man who is legitimately paying $1 million a week if you bring him the right type of cattle. And I walked up to this man and I said, you know what? I have put in zero effort. I'm borderline up until this day, you know, I have accomplished effectively nothing. But I want you to respect me and buy my cattle and, you know, hold my hand and give me everything, like, you know, and if you don't, I'm going to throw a pissy fit. Does that sound like a good deal? And that's a horrible deal. Right? I mean, it's like, you know, think about, you know, it's like, you know, think about what if I did that? I found somebody who was incredibly wealthy. they were doing business. They were doing very well for themselves. And I walked up to them and that was my deal. Do you think you're going to get anywhere with that kind of deal? No, you're not. You have to learn, you have to think about it. And I'm going to use me as an example, because if I use me as an example, I guess I just feel better about the whole thing. I did not show up in the cattle business and just go, oh my God, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. I'm going to raise whatever type of cattle I want, whichever way I want to raise them. I'm just, because me, I fell out of heaven at 7. Turns out I'm a unicorn, and it turns out that I'm just I'm just an incredible gift to the earth by God. That's what it turns out that that's what it is for me. And so I'm going to do whatever the heck I want. I'm going to raise whatever type of cattle I want. I'm going to go and feed them whatever I want. And at the end of the day, I expect to get paid. And if I don't get paid, I'm going to throw a pissy fit. If that was me, I would not have gotten anywhere. I would not have accomplished anything with my entire life. All right, I would effectively have scraped across the bottom like everybody else if that was me. But I did not do that. I took a look around. I figured out where the money was, the largest market that I could find. And then I provided a service to that market. And when I provided that service to the market that the market wanted, I was paid for it. That is legitimately what I did. All right, and I'm not, when I say these things, I'm not like leading people astray. I'm not leading you the wrong way. Yeah, but most people are, it's already too late. I don't know how else to put it. It's already too late. I can almost guarantee it is already too late. And it's like when you watch me farming, you don't have a reference point to understand that this may legitimately be the most successful farm on the entire planet. You probably do not understand that. Fundamentally, it's just gone completely over your head. You don't understand that. And nobody is going to turn a regular person, a bunch of regular people, into the greatest farmer that the world has ever seen. Nobody is. It is not possible. And I've talked about this as a reality situation. A lot of people, they don't even, they deep down, they don't even have, I'm not even gonna say they don't have what it takes. Deep down, they're just a massive pile of problems. All right, and that's why they're not going to make it. It's not like they're not going to make it because they're not smart enough. It's not like they're not going to make it because, whatever. They're not going to make it because they're a massive, but most people, if you took a bunch of average people, everybody is not going to make it to this point. Not even, if we took everybody on the entire planet, maybe like 100 of you make it to this point. Maybe 100, and that would be if you actually applied yourself very, 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 very diligently to making it. And you actually went through it and you actually did it. But you're not turning, nobody, not even me, is turning a bunch of regular people into the most successful farmer that the world has ever seen. It's not going to happen. I wish it could. I legitimately, if I sincerely had an honest to God conversation with, with everybody, I would be more happy. I would choose to see everybody succeed before I chose to see everybody fail. All right, 100%, I sincerely mean it. I would choose to see everybody succeed. But at the end of the day, you have to, if we're going to understand reality for what it is, this may legitimately be the most successful farm on the entire planet in terms of running commercial cattle on grass. I may legitimately be, if not one of the most successful farmers, the most successful cattle farmer on the entire planet. You are not turning a bunch of average people into this. It is not going to happen. It doesn't matter what you think. It will not happen. All right, and you have to consider that. All right, and I'm not saying that you should give up hope. I've already said that running cattle is not the only way to make money on the entire planet. There are many ways to make money. All right, there are many ways to make money. And if I talk about money in terms of a broader reality, I talk about things like equitable assets, tax deductions, generating, positive returns, appreciating your asset. I talk about all of these things in terms of a general idea. But you're probably not going to make it as a cattleman. If you can make it as a cattleman, then prove me wrong. And if you actually want to take a look at my numbers, you're going to find that I invested about $1,000 a month to generate myself almost $2 million. That's what it took me. I generated more than $1 million by investing $1,000 a month. I already did it. I'm doing it on a daily basis. I'm not making this up. I'm not consulting anybody. I've already done it. I've already done it. And if you want to take a look at where do I spend my money, how much do I spend on these things, then check the numbers for yourself. I've already checked the numbers for you in this video. All right, I mean, go and check it for yourself, right? I pay this much for distiller grains. I pay for this much for corn. I pay this much for hay. This is my benchmark animal, and I raise this benchmark animal to this weight, and then I take the median, the average weight, in between the starting weight and the ending weight, and I feed 3.25% of their body weight a day in dry matter, etc., etc. I've already gone over everything, even in this video. All right, if you want to check the numbers and check it for yourself, but I can almost guarantee that it is almost for anybody. If I went into a Costco right now, if I went into a Walmart right now, if I went into a Family Dollar right now, it doesn't matter. If you're impoverished, you're essentially making $30,000 a year less, $45,000 a year less than the person who is upper middle class. You're all effectively the same. Everybody is effectively the same. All right, and I know that that's going to sound horrible, but that's from my perspective, all right? And it's like me, I generate so much money running cattle that I can effectively do anything that I want. I'm going to buy myself a 50-acre piece of land and 150 more cattle, and I'm only going to be utilizing about a third to a half of the money that I make on my business right now. All right, I can effectively buy anything that I want. Granted that I don't go and be an idiot, right? Like, I don't go and do drugs. I don't go and, and then, whatever, give up on my business. Start gambling, get 5 girlfriends. Granted, I don't do something like that. I can effectively do anything that I want, right? And you have to understand that, like, if you were legitimately going to find somebody like me, you have to understand that if you were in a room, this is what it looks like. This is an actual way to look at it. If you were in a room full of 333.4 million people, there would be 15,000 people in that entire room that are like me. 15,000 out of 333.4 million. Chances are by the time you even see me, you won't even know what you're looking at. All right, you probably won't. You will have no idea. You will have no conceptual understanding of what it looks like to generate money like this. You will have no idea. You just fundamentally, it will go right over your head. You won't even know what you're looking at. All right, because you've already met 99 people, and those 99 people are effectively all failing the exact same way, and they've all told you the exact same thing, and they're all going the wrong way. And by the time you see me, it's already too late. All right, you invest $1,000 a month, and you can generate $1 million on it. You start a business like this, you take your paperwork to the bank, and you leverage your earnings on a business line of credit, and you have an LLC, and you purchase assets for your LLC using that business line of credit. Even if you bankrupt, you're not going to lose. You're legally protected from losing, like, your home. You're legally protected from losing your assets outside of the LLC. Should you abuse the system? No, you should not. Right? I mean, all of these things, it's probably already too late. Even if I tell you and I just give you the answer, I had to find out this stuff for myself. Nobody gave me the answer. Nobody gave me this long list of answers, and I still made it to this point. And this is also what I mean by, if you are not working 15 hours a day, it's not going to work out. If you don't work 7 days a week, it's not going to work out. I can almost guarantee it. I legitimately live where I work. All right, like, you're not going to make it. And I don't, and maybe if I say that, you will start trying hard enough to actually make it. All right, maybe you should, and you have to understand that if you risk $1,000, you can. I'm just going to use me as an example. I invested $1,000 a month to generate over $1 million in less than 365 days. I already did it. It doesn't matter what you think. The results are the results. I already did it. I invest $1,000 a month and I generate over $1 million on that $1,000. All right, and it doesn't matter what you think. The results are the results. All right, I mean, it just is what it is. And I'm just going to call it a day. I don't even remember exactly. I had a long list of things I was going to talk about on this video, and I completely forgot. I want to talk about starting a business, bookkeeping for a business, bookkeeping for a business, starting a business, cross-referencing my feed costs, the numbers that I use to anticipate how much my animals are going to eat, and well, I went over all of that stuff, and I'm just going to call it a day. Y'all have a good one, YouTube. Oh yeah, my grass is coming in. I just want to say that real fast. My grass is coming in. My grass is coming in. It's about 1 inch tall, and I'm supposed to be getting some rain, and that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.